Hi, I'm Stephen. We're going to talk about everyone's biggest fear, and that is pruning or winter pruning your climbing rose. Doesn't matter whether they're in the pot or in the ground, the method will be the same, but the technique is different to, say, a bush rose. So listen up and I'll show you how to do it. First thing we have to do is wait for our last frosts and make sure our pruning tools are really sharp, and most importantly, especially with the climbing rose, is check to see whether it's a repeat flowering rose or a once a year flowering rose. This one here in particular is a repeat flowering rose, but if it's a once a year flowering rose, wait until it's finished flowering. In Australia, it's generally during summer. So the tools you'll need are a pair of gloves. I like something that's not too thick, that I can actually feel with my fingers a little bit. A pair of loppers, a soft brush, pruning saw, secateurs, either tie-in tape or old stockings. And I've also got a blade here as well. So the first thing we're going to do is, if it's tied onto something, in this case it's a few wires in the ground, what we're going to do is we're going to cut off anywhere where it's tied before we begin. So just simply go around like this. Now, when we're finished with all our prunings and cuttings of the rose, don't use them as a mulch, as they can harbour pests and diseases. If you're, depending on the shire that you're in, if you're able to burn them, burn them. If not, throw them out. Because all we'll end up doing is spreading pests and diseases everywhere, which we don't want. So lots has happened to this one, not everything correct, but lots has been going on. Right, so what we've got is a couple of standards in front, so just ignore this growth at the moment. What we're going to look for is, now that we've cut away any of the ties, is you might be thinking of, where do I start? Start with any dead material you can see at its point of origin, or any spindly bits. Basically, what we want to do, we've got all this new young, or long growth I should say, we want to keep this. If we were to cut that back, say down here like we would a normal bush rose, it's got to do all that growth again before it flowers, because climbers, they get big before they get beautiful. So basically they have to grow and then they flower. And that's a lot of people make the mistake with feeding the climbing roses, which we'll get to in another video. But basically, if you keep feeding the climbing rose, it's going to keep growing and it won't flower. So the trick with climbing roses is to get them to flower, is not to feed them. So I'll start by cutting out some of these, put a little bit of tape here. Any of the spindly bits along the length of the rose, so, or any growth coming off along the length of the rose, which just over there, yep. Just like this. Lots of ties. At this point here, I'll just cut it there. And what we're cutting for these extra little bits is we're looking for this new younger growth, as this will hold or bear the best flowers on it. So once we get up to these bits, we can just cut the leaves off like this. Because in no time, we can always see the eyes starting to swell. We'll see new growth starting to happen. Sorry, the eyes start to swell, which were once these little tiny buds here, and basically then they start to grow, produce a branch, which produces a flower, which makes you, or generally the other half, very happy. Now, if you happen to cut and make a mistake, although it is more pronounced on the climbing roses, it's okay. The roses always regrow as long as they haven't been cut below the graft point. So if you're talking, you're having a conversation, having a sneaky little drink, you're talking to your neighbour, and you make a wrong cut, and you make a mistake, don't worry about it. It'll regrow. So here too, we've got new growth coming off here, so we'll just cut that off there, which you couldn't really see, but we've got that. To produce all this lovely new growth here. Again, just cut all these leaves off, which will be excess. Because after we finish pruning it, we're going to give it a lime sulphur spray, which can't have any leaves on it. And just tip prune that a little bit, so look at that big long length, which will actually untangle at the same time. This is behind there. Now, you come down here for a tick. We've got these bits of new growth here going across and along, and probably to anyone's disgust, I'm going to cut it off here. Now, I know that had a long bit on it, but it was going in a direction which I didn't want it to grow. Cut that off. Cut all these leaves off. So, what all the roses have behind these little leaflets are these little buds, or these little eyes just here. If we cut between the two eyes, let's say just below an eye, it's always going to it's always going to die down to the next available bud. So what we always want to do is cut just above an eye, like this, in the direction that we want it to grow. In this case, it'll grow out this way. So I'm going to leave that for a little bit, and I'll fix it up in a moment. So what we're going to do now is, before we tie it up, we're going to get this soft brush, just get this rubbish out of the way, and what we're going to do is, just in case there's any bits of scale, as you can see this white stuff here, we're just going to give that a little brush to remove it. And this will also, by giving it a little rough up, will activate any eyes that weren't going to open anytime soon. Basically it goes into a survival phase where it thinks it's been attacked. And I'll put on growth. This side as well. To do is, on this new youngest growth, I won't take it all the way back to the point of origin. I'm going to cut it just a few inches above it, like that. Okay, so next, people generally think to climb a climbing rose, you've got all this long growth here. They're going to put it up against the wall like this. What will happen is it will then flower at the top, but all down here will be bare. So the trick with the climbing roses is put them as horizontal as possible, because what will happen is out of each one of those little eyes that I was showing you earlier, you'll then get new growth going up. At the end of each of those bits of new growth, you'll then get a new flower. So not only will this look fuller, but you'll get a lot more flowers on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my budding tape, which you can also use things like old stockings. I do see people using things like zip ties and electrical tape. Never use those, because what will happen is, as the year progresses, this wood here will get thicker and thicker. You can imagine the rose will then get strangled by either the zip tie or the electrical tape because it's got no room to move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, in this case, budding tape because it's got a bit of flex in it. And again, picking a point as low as possible. So here. Like that. Just cutting that, tying it like that. And with this point here, just going over. Now what you can find is, this being a bit of wire, on a hot sunny day, which we're just in the late afternoon now so we've missed it, this can actually heat up quite a bit during the day. So what you want to do is you want to rub your tape basically in between the two as a barrier. So what that's doing is it's just a bit off it like this. Oh, Jesus, my foot there. That way it won't burn on the hot wire here. Now we've come to a point here where we've got a pathway and I've actually got a bit of excess. I actually will want the growth to go up from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my secateurs. I'm actually going to cut just above one of these eyes, and you guessed it, in the direction I want it to go, which will be up. So like that. And for this one here, just cut that off there. Sorry about that. We'll just tie that over here. Again, using my foot because I don't have my gloves on. So you can see here, this will be the direction of my new growth. So what we're going to do on this side is, again, bring it down nice and low. Like this. Again, remembering, because of that bit of metal here, we're just doing a bit of a double tie, so basically this isn't on this, that'll get a lot of burn on it, especially during the summer months. So by just having that little bit of a gap there, you'll find that you'll solve that problem of burning it, especially on the metal products. Okay, now this will keep growing across nicely like this. I've actually got another one of the same one going to come across here to fill in this whole wall. So next what we're going to do is we're going to go up to this one. And you can see here, there's a bend going this way. I'm not going to try and force it to go this way because you'll get a lot of unnatural growth and it won't look as good. So this one, I'm actually going to bring it across and it'll tie down nicely. And in this case here, we're going against the brick wall of the house. There's actually some air vents here. We don't want to cover these air vents to prevent the airflow from flowing. So I'm going to tie it on the wire just a bit above one. And this growth that is down here, once it starts to get up to here, I'll keep it trimmed to keep that air vents free. You can see here, I've left a bit of a gap for the wire so it doesn't burn again. Keep going that right across. This one here. Let's bring it to the front of the wire. Go for a moment. So, oops. Just looking up. Okay. I'll keep you updated on this as it grows, showing you the new growth that is produced and how it grows along the stem here. There's a point here where it is actually touching this steel star post. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a bit of tape in between to stop that burning during the summer months. So just going across like that. Let's go so a bit behind. Let's put this in front. Just to prevent that from burning. So that's how you prune and tie up a climbing rose. Keep an eye out for other videos on how to prune different types of roses, and if you have got any other rose related questions that you're not sure how to do and would like answered, just comment or ask me in the YouTube comment section and I'll make a video for you. It's also now the time to lime sulfur this. So what I recommend is not to have any leaves on them. Be careful of what's around you, such as structures like this, which the sulfur can do damage to. So spray it, and also spray the soil around it. That'll kill any fungal spores for the upcoming season. And I recommend the full winter rate, which is on the back of your particular brand of lime sulfur product. Enjoy your garden, and remember, cut first and ask questions later. Bye.